Welcome to Disruptive CEO Nation, where company founders, entrepreneurs, and cutting-edge thinkers drop in from around the globe to share startup stories, insider insights, and hard-earned success lessons. Now, here's your host, a woman who mastered business by placing heels on the ground all over the world, having worked with and coached CEOs and senior leaders from over 90 countries, and who wants you to build your best business future, Allison K. Summers.
Well, good afternoon. This is Dr. Derek Taylor with the Taylor Method for Pain-Free Living. Oh my goodness, Leo, I don't know how to pronounce
Szymborski.
Your last name. How do you say it?
Szymborski.
Leo Szymborski. Okay. Redo. Well, good afternoon. This is Dr. Derek Taylor with the Taylor Method for Pain-Free Living podcast. We're here with our guest, Leo Szymborski from pH Prescription Water. So, Leo, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Doc. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're talking about the subject of water, which is extremely important. I know our show would like to focus on pain, but we also branch out to other aspects of health. And I came across you because I was looking for a water filtration system, and there's so much confusion out there, isn't there, about all the different systems out there? And we wanted something under the sink. We had used the Kangen water for many years, and my wife couldn't stand that, and you can see it right there on the counter. And so she was looking for something under the sink. They sell one as well, but we were just looking at different options. And we heard from a number of different people about your company, and we said, man, this sounds, when I heard what it does, all the different features and all the different filtration systems, I said, this is like, I can't believe that somebody invented something like this. This is amazing. And we got it, and we love it. We love the taste. We love how you have that storage unit so the water comes out quickly, and we just love everything about it. So tell us about why this water system for drinking water, because there's a lot of people, they're drinking bottled water, they're getting all the BPA, they're getting all the toxins from the plastic leached into their system. They're having to lug these containers around and go to the store. It tastes nasty. You don't know what's in it. You can't trust it. I love how this just comes right out from the unit, and it tastes like I drinking out of a mountain stream. Tell us about your system and how it came about.
Yeah, I developed pH prescription about 15 years ago for some personal health reasons. And I was about 40 years old, and I was suffering from some heart issues. And I realized that I could add electrons to water. I was already in the water filtration business. Let me clear that up. I've been doing water filtration for over 35 years. And I clean up toxic wells and all kinds of really nasty water. And I remember years ago, even 30 plus years ago, meeting people that were going through cancer survivors, and they were going through therapies and treatments with doctors that wanted to help them. And one of their protocols was to get them off the tap water, because chlorine is the number one, is a really, really bad carcinogen. And if you're off chlorinated water, and that's from drinking or bathing, you have a 93% less chance of developing cancer. And women with breast cancer actually have 60% higher levels of trihalomethanes, which is a chlorine byproduct, in their breast tissue than women who don't. So we realized how important it was to make the right water. And for my whole career, we've been making clean water, and clean water was the key. The Water Quality Association would measure the quality of the water, of how clean it was, of how good it was. And then we realized clean water wasn't just the only way. There's clean, and then there's healthy. So putting the things back that are important was what we did. And the PHRO 1100 that you have is the one that's sitting right over my shoulder here on this table. The PHR 1100 is all that and more. And what it does is it removes all the VOCs from the water. I mean, you name it, from benzenes, the toluenes, the chlorine, the chloramine, the ammonia, any chemical that's being added that's a VOC, volatile organic compound. It removes the gases like trihalomethanes, which are a big problem. And then it also removes heavy metals, and even really hard to get out things like pharmaceutical residue, because most municipalities recycle their water. And it also removes fluoride. Fluoride is a pretty bad toxin. Most people confuse it, and it's a very controversial subject, but it's a very small molecule, and it's generally bound to aluminum. So it's very effective at removing all those things. And then after that happens, then the water is pure. And I have a lot of people come to me and say, well, reverse osmosis is not a good thing to drink because the water is dead and it has no energy or no charge, or it's not living water. And that's where we come in and we change that narrative. After the reverse osmosis membrane, which we use a Pentair membrane, that's a 1-to-1 membrane, only 1 gallon of water goes down the drain for 1 gallon of product that's going into you, which is really, really good. The old membranes were about 5-to-1. You wasted about 5 gallons to every 1 gallon of drinking water. So where it's very efficient, it meets California standards, which we're in all 50 states now. The product works amazing because then after it goes through that purity process, the only problem is with RO water, it's acidic because the only thing left in the water is CO2, and it's dead. It has no energy, it has no minerals, it has no voltage, and I'll get into that about molecular hydrogen in a minute. But so after it goes through our alkalizing filter, which is a bunch of different minerals, these minerals activate and charge the water. And the nice thing about reverse osmosis, the water moves extremely slow through the system. So the contact time in this alkaline ionizing filter is a long time compared to water just passing straight through a filter. And by the time it goes into that holding tank, it's making about -600 ORP. ORP stands for oxidation reduction potential. And that's not even the best part. The best part is it's making about 1 to 1.2 parts per million of molecular hydrogen, which is actually gassing off the magnesium and the tourmaline we're using in there. And that molecular hydrogen is one of the best anti-inflammatories. There's over 1,000 PubMed studies on this that you can look up on molecular hydrogen, what it does for the body. And inflammation is one of the main drivers. By adding magnesium to the water, back to the water, and putting some minerals back in the water, making the water about a TDS of about 30 to 50 parts per million, because RO takes it almost to 0. And then we're putting back that mineral. It makes it cellular able to hydrate the body and get into the cells. Like if we took a petri dish with blood or tissue on it and we were to inject water onto it and the water was pure, it would bead off. It would be like trying to wash a freshly waxed car. But if we put just a trace bit of minerals in there, it'll absorb into the cell and cause proper cellular hydration, which is so important. And the best part is when you can hydrate the cell, you can flush the toxins and waste out of the cell. So for people who have diabetes and sticky blood and all kinds of issues, this is amazing because this water not only gets into the cell and gets the good stuff in, it gets the bad stuff out. So it's a win-win. By the time it goes from all of its 6 filtering stages to your mouth, it's just we've taken out all the bad guys. We put back in the good things that are important, and we just give you a good glass of water, and that makes you feel amazing. So it's an amazing piece of equipment. It took us a little while to develop properly, but it works extremely well.
Yeah. So tell us about all the benefits you get. Well, reverse osmosis, you're adding minerals back, you're making the water alkaline. What else does it do as well? I mean, all those, I got 3, I think, out of the 6. What are the other components?
Yeah, so first we get rid of the bad stuff. You know, we basically put up a guardian right there, and we take all those things out. And then by remineralizing
I'm looking over your left shoulder there. So is that the first? The one on, I guess
the one next to the blue tank right there. That's got, you see the 3 filters at the bottom.
Yep. It goes through that one first.
There's 3. Yeah, it goes through the 3 on the bottom. So the first filter is a sediment filter. It just gets rid of anything that's suspended matter that's going to clog up the other filters. Sure. Okay. So it's a 5 micron sediment filter, and believe it or not, they do a lot of work. When you take them out, you could take a butter knife and carve the crud off the side of that sediment filter. So it does its job. The second filter is a granular activated carbon filter, and we use a mixture of coconut and catalytic carbon. And these carbons will remove chlorine and chloramine. Catalytic carbon is the only one that will remove chloramine. That's why we use it. And the third filter, all the way to the left there, would be the carbon block filter. And the carbon block filter takes it down to a 0.5 micron. So that anything with DNA like Gardium, Cryptosporidium, cysts and spores will get caught up in that filter and they won't get through it. And then after that, the first horizontal filter on the top of it, there's 3. You can only see 2 behind me. There's one behind that filter, is a membrane. And the membrane removes things down to 0.0005 micron, which is 1/5 millionth of an inch. So it's got 9 square feet of that membrane wrapped up in that tube. And if you were to take 1 square foot of that membrane And the pore is so small in that membrane that if you stretch that membrane 1 square foot piece to the size of the Pacific Ocean, that pore would only be the size of a dime. That's how small it is. So the only thing getting through that membrane is water molecules. And then after those water molecules pass through, everything else goes down the drain. So that's why it's 1-to-1, one product to one drain. And that wastewater is just things that are too big to get through it. And that's most toxins and most things that are in the water. So now the water is very pure. The only thing we really didn't remove was CO2. And that's why the pH drops rapidly, because the minerals are gone. So the pH will drop down to about 6, 5.5, 6. So you have acidic water, but it's very clean water. And I remember the first time I learned about ionized water or energetic water, when I heard them talking bad about reverse osmosis, I was personally insulted, because I design, I developed, and I install many reverse osmosis systems, from residential drinking water to hospital kidney dialysis equipment and marine desalinators on yachts. So it was a big part of my business working with reverse osmosis, knowing how good it could get. And then, but after that is where kind of the magic happens. It goes through our ionizing, alkalizing filter, and that's what's putting back the minerals. It's taking it from 0 TDS up to about 30 to 50 parts per million. And that's a perfect amount of solids in the water for proper cellular hydration. And because it's magnesium, it's very alkaline. So it raises the pH of the water in the 9s. You know, some of them will be around 9, 9.5, 9.7. And sometimes when they're brand new, it'll run around 10. Never had anyone have a headache or have any bad reaction to the alkalinity in the water. A few doctors have told me if anybody ever got alkalosis from the system, they like to meet them, because the stuff that goes into the body, like the magnesium stuff, will force its way into your bloodstream and help neutralize your blood and keep the acidity out of it. But it doesn't really affect the stomach acid in your body. And if people are really concerned about stomach acid and they're really, really sensitive, they can add lemons to the water, because lemons are alkalizing because they force the body to make bicarbonate, but they're still a citric acid. They're still acidic. They can use apple cider vinegar in their water if they choose to, and they want to have this water with their dinner, and they feel that they need more acid in their water. It's for better digestion. It's really personal preference. I don't use it. I know a lot of people who do. But then after that, all that water goes into a holding tank. Now, hydrogen normally escapes, like the countertop ionizer you were talking about, right? The hydrogen comes out of that, and it's not under pressure. So Henry's law, if you ever people who've done scuba diving understand Henry's law, how gas can be forced into a liquid and dissolved under pressure, especially when you're diving deep. Well, under the water pressure that you have inside that system is about 55 PSI, which is a lot of water pressure. And that dissolves the hydrogen into the water to keep it in suspended matter and being ready for you when it comes out that faucet. So when it comes out the faucet and you fill your glass with it, you can actually look up to it really closely and see all the little hydrogen bubbles starting to gas off.
Sure.
So drink it, the quicker you drink it, the better. But it's because it's dissolved, it lasts a while. Its half-life's about 12 hours. So it's going to be in your water for a while. So even if you fill a pitcher and put it in the refrigerator, 12 hours from now, you're going to have about half as much as you had when you put it in. By the end of the day, it's going to be gone. So you want to make it fresh. You want to drink it fresh. And then the last thing it does, the 6 filter it goes through is I use a coconut carbon filter for taste and odor. Now, almost all the refrigerators and your Brita pitchers and all the different things have a taste and odor filter in it, but that's all they have. And the only reason I use it as a final stage is because I don't want any bitter taste from the minerals. I don't want any taste from the material that it's inside of itself, like the bladder tank. I want to polish off right before it comes out of that faucet anything that could be in that water, taste purposes. And that's all that filter has to do, is make the water taste nice and sweet. And coconut carbon has a sweet aftertaste to it. Most people don't complain about it. Even people who don't like coconut don't notice that there's any coconut flavor or anything like that. It just gives the water a great, like you said, the water tastes great, a great aftertaste. And it's not sitting on top of your counter. It's underneath the counter. It has its own faucet that will be on your counter. And we pick something to match the faucet you have. If you have brushed nickel, bronze, black, whatever, we have all the faucets in different styles and shapes. And that would be mounted right into your countertop. Most people today have granite or quartz. We drill that every day. So putting in a faucet isn't a big deal. We're insured for $2 million in case we were to do something wrong, but I've never broke a countertop. Neither has one of my team members. And we get through that countertop with a diamond bit in less than 2 minutes. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Amazing. Wow. That was a really thorough explanation of how that filtration system works. And I like how you said, you're making the water alkaline through the filter system. And so it's going to be different than like a Kangen unit, which is electronically passing through that plate, right? So this is just running through the filter. So what you said, though, is interesting because, with the alkaline water, the concern that some people would be thinking would be, well, I don't want to make my system alkaline. I need as much acid to break down the food in my stomach. You're saying that's not going to affect digestion, the alkalinity of the water. And why is that? Why doesn't the alkaline water affect the acidity of the stomach when you're breaking down the food?
Well, one thing people confuse it with is bicarbonate, right? Like baking soda. Everybody knows that you can alkalize your water with baking soda. You can put a half teaspoon in there, mix it up, and drink it. Well, that bicarbonate is really, really alkaline. Even though the pH of my water is maybe the same, about 9.5 to 10, it's not, the alkalinity isn't that high in our water, and it breaks down rather quickly. So, like if you take something like a soda that has a pH of 2.5. It would take 32 glasses of my water to neutralize that soda to a pH of 7, which is neutral, right? pH has a scale of 0 to 14, and 7's dead center of that. And so that's neutral. And anything above 7's alkaline, anything below 7's acidic. So it's very important that we take the water and we put it on the alkaline side because you heard of acidosis and uric acid causes gout in your feet and all these things, and we're over acidic, and the American diet or the Western diet is so bad that across from almost every McDonald's is a Walgreens with antacids, right? So you can get those things that counter the stuff that you're putting in your body. I don't drink soda. My kids never drank soda. We always drank water. Even by our pool, we always had a cooler that had the same filtration system built in. We make water coolers that do the same. We sell them to restaurants too. They have these countertop coolers in some nice restaurants. They'll bring you a craft of water to your table, and pH Prescription has been very popular with that. And so we will brand the crafts with their name or our name, whatever they want us to put on it. But there's all these different ways to do it. And when you're talking about ionizers have purpose and they can be good in certain settings, but we live here in South Florida and our water quality isn't great. It's not, but when we compare our water quality to around the country, we're pretty on the low scale. We don't really have a good mineral source in our water. We're basically on top of a big beach. We're just on the sand pit, and so it's not like we're in upstate New York or in Colorado or somewhere like that where we're getting a good mineral source. Where I've seen excellent water in those states. We have our challenges. So most ionizer companies come up with an idea that one size fits all, and it doesn't. So if you had a water softener in your house and you have an ionizer, the ionizer is not ionizing minerals anymore. What's it ionizing? It's ionizing salt, right? Because it's not adding anything to the water. It's using what it has to work with. And then on that ionizer, you'll have a pH of 8.5, pH of 9 or 9.5, and you click that button, and it puts more energy to the ionizer. It really doesn't know if it's giving you an 8.5, 9.95. It just knows with a neutral water with 300 parts per million of minerals, it should be in that range. But it'll even tell you sometimes, some talk to you, water at 9.5, and from their machine. And then I've tested it, and it could be an 8.2 or it could be a 10.1. It really depends on what's in the water. So our water system takes all that stuff out and takes the guesswork out. I can put this water system in your house, my house. I could put it in Mexico, and I can put it in Haiti, and I'll get the same results with the water quality because we take it to absolute zero and then we rebuild it.
Oh, amazing. Now, we have some listeners that are new to the show, and they're still just getting a grasp on just these concepts of health. Some may not even know the damage that having an acidic body produces. So tell us how your water can help with the person's overall health by making it more alkaline.
Yeah, it's a good statement. Dr. Otto Warburg said that most people with cancer have too high of acidic levels in the body. Cancer thrives on an acidic oxygen depleted acidic environment, and all kinds of other diseases do too. And especially the cause of all chronic disease, inflammation, right? We know inflammation is triggered by many things. We know if we drink a lot of alcohol, it's very damaging to our body. Well, alcohol is very acidic, right? It's very acidic. It's not alkaline. Almost everything that you buy in a bottle today, there's a lot of bottled waters on the market, and they're really leaning towards the alkaline side. almost even Smart Water and all the water manufacturers out there today have an alkaline version of their water. When it first came out, I would say about 10 plus years ago, when you started seeing alkaline water on the shelf, it was very rare and it was hard to get. Like, I think Essentia was one of the first ones to break ground with it. And I know the doctors who did the research on that. And by putting those minerals, the potassium and different things that they put in the water when they made the Essentia water, and they use a big ionizer to make it. But the hydrogen and all the things that are really, really good for you are gone. You know, they escape through the plastic. And the only way to trap hydrogen into a container is either put it in an aluminum foil Tetra Pak or an aluminum can, because hydrogen is such a small molecule, it can't pass through that material, but it'll pass through plastic like no tomorrow. So I'm working with a couple different bottling companies. Actually, we do have one bottle company that's making it with oxygen out in Arizona, and we have another one down here in Boca Raton that's making a really good alkaline water, but they're both still in plastic. And I'm trying to get these guys away from that mentality.
Well, you mentioned earlier, though, that in your holding tank, that pressure is what infuses the hydrogen within to the water molecules in itself, right? You need that pressure. You lose all that with, you don't have that pressure in a bottle of water. And the other thing is with alkaline water, it's a solvent. So you're going to be leaching those toxins from the plastic bottles more into the water. So that water's toxic, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you said in the beginning of the show, you know, things like BPAs, which is a hormone disruptor, right? It's a plastic that's in there. And then the BPA-free plastic is BPS. And BPS is still made with diesel fuel. So it's still got toxic factors, you know, even though it may be less harmful than BPA because there's been less studies. So, you know, that's how it is when there's new things come out and there's very little studies, there's very little bit of bad to say about them. But then after they've been around for a while, now this drinking system's been around almost 15 years. And only thing that's happened to it in the last 15 years is improvements. You know, we improve our medias, we improve our membranes, we improve, we had a issue because hydrogen, when it gases off of magnesium, it creates a tremendous amount of pressure. And in our very first filters, we were filling the filters up with water and then shutting it off for testing, and the pressure had nowhere to go. And these filters were cracking and splitting, and we thought we had defective filters until we put a gauge on it. And then we realized 20 minutes after we shut the filter off, it was reaching over a couple hundred PSI. And when people would go turn on their faucet, it would spit and sputter like it scare them, like it sounded like a snake, you know, hissing at them. And so we came up with a way with our system with a check valve and a shutoff. It's got an automatic shutoff when the tank's full. And then that check valve stops the water from making any more water. It shuts it down. And then what's left in that housing gets forced backwards through the membrane, which has really cool properties, and goes down the drain. That excess hydrogen gas is off and the pressure releases out of that chamber. And as soon as the pressure releases, it stops making hydrogen. But it was really cool because we realized that membranes are lasting longer because we're forcing this hydrogen gas backwards to the membrane. So we're backwashing the membrane. Every time the tank fills and shuts off, it'll put a back pressure on it. And if you really listen to the drain, you can hear it. It's very faint, but you'll hear a little noise coming out of your drain from the hydrogen gassing off. It's not dangerous. It's not going to explode or have any issues like that. It has to be like 4.8% in the air to explode, and it'd be less than like 0.1%. Yeah. So it's very safe, and it's very good to drink, and it's very healthy.
Now, when somebody who's very unhealthy, you know, they're toxic, maybe they just gone through chemo, they're done with they have cancer, they've gone chemo treatment, so they're just loaded with toxins. If they start to, or they lived a lifestyle for decades where they're just putting garbage in their body, if they start drinking this purely clean, hydrogenated, alkalizing water, could they possibly go through some detox symptoms as a result of it flushing things out and getting things? And what would you do? What would you recommend to navigate through that turbulent time if they are detoxing?
It's a great question. I get it asked quite often. There is, you know how people, when they go through any type of detox, go through like a Herxheimer's reaction, and it's causing these toxins to come out of the body quicker. I'll give you a good example. One of my friends, he's a sheriff. He's a real big guy, and he's a powerlifter, bodybuilder, and he takes probably way too much protein and all kinds of other nutraceuticals and puts in his body. But I'm sure he's trapping a lot of garbage in his body too. So one day he was over with his kids, and our kids are swimming together behind the house, and we kept getting water in a pitcher out of my cooler. and which makes this type of water. And he was drinking it, and he said, "Man, this water's really good." And he must have drank 3 pitchers by himself. And then he finally went to the bathroom, and he come out and he said to me, he goes, "Leo," he goes, "what the heck did you put in that water?" Right? He goes, "I know I didn't have asparagus, but it smelled like it, you know?" And I started laughing because I know how the water penetrates the cells and forces the toxins out of the cell. So when somebody's really, really toxic, and even for pets, you know, I say you could do 50-50. You could start out with 50% of this water and 50% what you're currently doing. A lot of people are on bottled water. Like, we know it has its challenges with plastics and stuff, but you know, they can wean themselves off of it and do it 50-50 if they find that they're having a reaction to the water. 9 times out of 10, 0 reaction. I get no complaints. Every now and then I get somebody that has, you know, they're going through something and they're making a huge change in their life, generally when they bring me into their life. So they're going through a detox anyhow. And or they, like you said, they just got done chemotherapy or a radiation treatment or something like that. We have those people in here all the time. And we give them water, good clean water. Some of them stay here locally, and we have a showering system here where they can shower in the same type of water, which is a really cool, something we could talk about on another show. But it helps them recharge and get their body back, because when they do chemo, what's it doing? It's attacking these healthy cells that are fast, you know, reproducing, so that so it can wipe out this cancer, but it's wiping out a part of them every time it does it. So by trying to get this stuff out of your body is hard. But with this water, it helps. And, you know, a few of the doctors I work with, one of the doctors said something so profound years ago. He says people get sick for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. One, the body's missing something it needs, a nutrient, something the body needs to, you know, for building blocks. And 2, it's exposed to something that is toxic. And it's no more true than that. So we did both. We took out the things that were bad and we put in the things that were good. So are we giving you your daily supply of magnesium? No, but we are giving you enough magnesium for good cellular hydration, and it has positive benefits as well.
Right. Yeah. If you drink regular bottled water, you know, let's say you drink, you're really thirsty, you drink a half gallon, it just sits in there like a lead balloon. But with your water, you can drink it. I guess the molecular clusters are going to be probably more like 5 or 6 as opposed to 11 or 13. So it's more easily.
Exactly. Actually, we found as low as 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
And we did a NMR on it, nuclear magnetic resonance test. I actually rented out NMR analytics up in Connecticut. It was the only place that would let me have access to the lab, and we rented the whole lab for a day. We brought all of our equipment up there and we ran testing, and this PHR 1100 was our star, and it was getting molecules as small as 4. So the cell, the mouth of the cell, they call it the hexagonal key. It's about 6 molecules can fit through that mouth of that cell for hydration. So the body does what's called osmosis. It's absorbing, right? It's absorbing things. And to get into that cellular, you have to have a smaller molecule. So getting things, the smaller you can get it in there, the quicker you can get in, and you can push the toxins and waste out of the cell. And so it was pretty cool seeing that this water could do all that and more. And then it's also bringing energy. We do blood on dark field microscopes all the time, and we can see that when blood is sticky or rouleau, it's all stuck together and it's stacked up like coins. It looks like snakes. It looks crazy when you look at a dark field microscope. And first time I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's really profound, especially people with diabetes that have very sticky blood. And that's why they have risk of stroke and blood clots and stuff like that. And for me, when I had my heart problem, I had AFib. And my AFib caused me to have sticky blood because of my heart was recirculating, and I was a higher risk of stroke. Oh. So we realized that by putting this water in, we prevented that issue by hydrating the blood, putting the energy on the blood so it will have its own charge. And there's like a halo around each cell, and it bounces frantically off, carrying oxygen and nutrients to the body. And that's very healthy and very good. We've asked people all the time when we were looking at their blood, the doctor would say, what's your number today? Give me 1 to 10, 10 being at your greatest and 1 being at your worst, before we look at the blood. And people generally, how they feel is how their blood looked. When they say, yeah, I'm a 10, I feel great, their blood generally looked good. And when they said, oh man, I feel really bad, I'm a 2 today, their blood looked awful. So this water penetrating. The best way to explain it is, I heard this from a doctor in Miami. I like to share this one. I told him I was going to use it. If your aquaporous cell was a chain link fence, right? And you had to get things through that chain link fence, right? And we're in Florida, so we're going to say we're trying to throw grapefruits through that fence, and they're just going to bounce off. That's a long chain molecule. It won't fit through the cellular surface. But if you took that grapefruit and broke it down into grapes and threw it at the fence, they would all go through. Even if they hit it, they'd probably, with the momentum, they'd all go through. So no different than when you break down the water molecule to being smaller, you hydrate. You hydrate for the first time. Arlo Guthrie, which is a folk singer, he's one of our clients. He's up in Sebastian, and he said it best. He says, I get a glass of water and I drink it and I walk away. And he goes, after you first put the unit in, I'm thirsty again before I get to the other side of the house. He says, so I come back and get another glass of water. I couldn't figure out why. And he goes, my body wanted this water because it was smaller and it was getting in and finally hydrating me.
Yeah.
So your body knows what it wants and what it needs sometimes.
Well, that's why I'm so happy we have one of these in our office, because we do electron therapy with PEMF. So it's magnetism. It helps to separate the blood. And then we do photon therapy with our Theralite 360 bed. And then I have them drink a ton of this water. It's like the perfect trifecta for just getting all the blood in less viscous and more moving rapidly, getting oxygen to the cells. So I'm so happy to have this, and my patients love this. Sometimes they'll bring the whole thing and just fill it up their container. I'm, hey man, this is my water. What are you doing here? But they love it. They can't get enough of it. Tell us now, as we're coming to a close of our show, briefly, what are some of the let's get on a real practical level now, get away from the science. What are just some of the real amazing things that you've seen happen in people's health as a result of getting on drinking this pH prescription water?
A lot of things, anything from skin issues, we hydrate from the inside out, and getting that smaller molecule, it gets to the skin. I'm 55 years old. I barely have a wrinkle on my body. At 40, when I was having my health crisis, I looked older than I do today. I even had more gray hair then.
Wow.
So, and my mom and my sister a few years ago at Christmas, they tore my bathroom apart looking for Just for Men for my hair. They couldn't believe that this is real.
Looking for the Grecian formula there as well.
Yeah. and I have a brother that's 10 years younger that's has a lot of white in his hair, so they were picking on me.
Him? Why isn't he getting on your water system?
No, he's he's not into health like I am.
Yeah, I gotcha. I deal with the same thing with my family, so
we all got one or two, right? But he's wonderful. And but no, it's just the overall, the total package, it's priced right. Compared to these electronic ionizers that are only doing not even half of what my system's doing.
No, yours is very reasonable.
It's much cheaper, and it's easy to service. It's easy to maintain. Most clients can do it themselves. If you're in South Florida here, our company will handle it for you. Yep. We personally service, from Melbourne to Miami. And but we're in all 50 states. So if anybody's hearing this that's out of the area or has a family member that they think would be good, we ship it to them. We'll help you find an installer, and if you have a plumber you like, we'll work with that plumber. Yep. Or a handy person. I have a lot of people install their own unit. I was working with a woman in San Diego not too long ago, and she's got mad her plumber didn't show up, and she goes, I got tools, I'm doing it myself. Come on, Leo, we're going to do this together. So we got on FaceTime and we did it together, and she installed it in about 45 minutes, and she's never installed one before. So it's not that difficult. It looks challenging, but it's it has all, it fits under the sink. It's not sitting on your counter in the way, and it doesn't have to hook to your faucet, which today most kitchen faucets pull out and move around. You don't want something hanging off of that. So it's just
it's great.
It's just
a blessing to our home.
Ergonomically, it's perfect, and it's exactly what people need. And in some cases, we put multiple in some homes. I have them in their bathrooms. I have them in their kitchens, butler's pantry. Have them in, and we have them in coolers, like I said. Can be in offices or out by the pool. We have indoor, outdoor ones. I do them by tennis courts. I do them on golf courses. I mean, so you name it. This system that I designed here has been in anything from just standard apartments to mega yachts.
What's the best way they can get a hold of you? And so how can these one of our listeners, they've heard the show, they're like, this sounds like a no-brainer as far I got to improve the water intake. How can how can they get one of these units?
The best way to get a hold of us is through your link, which I'm going to give you right now. It's phprescription.com/Doc Taylor 10, DOCTAYLOR 10. And you get a 10% discount from just watching the show today off of our prices.
Yeah, I think, that's great. 10% discount. It's already at a reasonable rate, and then 10% on top of that is great. Thank you for your generosity. Appreciate that.
No worries. That's why we're here. And it's people like you that make it possible. You know, I mean, I really don't spend any money on advertising, very little, if any at all. It's generally word of mouth. And I do a lot of medical conferences. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of Zoom meetings. And COVID has been as bad as it was a blessing in disguise for me, because it made people more likely to use something like information like we're using right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. They can also call you, and they can use that same code. Can they use the same code? What is your, do you have an 800 number that you can give people? We do. Let me make sure because I don't normally give that out, but it's 888-728-2783 is our toll-free number. Our local number is 772-220-8789. And I'd be happy to speak with anyone. You can set up a time. My office will set up a time for us to talk. If we need to have a Zoom, we can have a Zoom, or we can just have a phone call. But there's a lot of questions people have. I mean, we don't do just drinking system. We do whole house systems. We do commercial properties. We do hospitals. We do, we do RVs and boats and coaches. So any place that you need good, clean water, we'll be there. Great. Leo, thank you so much for your time. This has been a fascinating show. You are a plethora of information, especially on the water. So I was talking to you earlier. You mentioned that you were in the water industry for over 35 years, and goes back to plumbing. And then your father was in the water industry, and your grandfather. Tell me that just really quickly about what his license number in the state. Yeah, my grandfather, same name as me, Leo Szymborski, Leo Gregory Szymborski, and my grandfather, he started out, and his plumbing license was in 1931. He actually started plumbing before that. And his plumbing license number in the state of New Jersey is 002. And so the funny part, and the guy who trained him was number one. So the funny part was, I have a copy of his plumbing license card and mine, and I took them and I made photocopies of both, and I laminated them together, and it's in my drawer somewhere. And when I used to go to New York and Boston, all these different places, when you walk in their plumbing supply, they won't even let you in unless you have a card. You got to have your plumber's card. If they don't know you, they'll throw you out, and they'll tell you to go to Home Depot or something. And so I've had accounts with Ferguson's my whole career, and my dad's too. So we've been working with Ferguson's probably for 50 years total. And so I'll throw my card on the table, and I would always throw it upside down with my grandfather's license on top, and they'd look at it, and the guy goes, "Look at this guy. He's a number 2. Get the hell out!" Trying to throw me out there. Turn it over. It's mine. That's a real card, though. And a lot of them had taken a picture of it and put it on the wall. We know number 2 from New Jersey. So amazing. We got a lot of history. We've been around a long time. Leo Szymborski, pH Prescription. Great to have you again on the show. Thank you so much for your time. And give them a call. It's amazing water. Thank you very much. Thanks, Doc. I really appreciate your time.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.